Hi guys, Mark here for KetoKitchenCollection.com, and today's question is, what is intermittent fasting? So in a nutshell, intermittent fasting is when you eat all of your food for the day within a certain window of time. Technically, you could say that you're already intermittent fasting because you're going overnight, you're sleeping for 8 hours, and you're fasting for those 8 hours. You're not eating anything. Then you go for the next 16 hours through the day and you eat your day's food. So yes, you are intermittent fasting, but that's not really what is meant. Basically, with intermittent fasting, what people technically or mean in terms of an applicable sense is that they have the 8 hours of fasting overnight, another 8 hours of fasting throughout the day once you wake up, generally, and then maybe a final 8-hour window making up the full 24 hours where you put all your food into that last 8 hours, or maybe even 6 hours. Some people maybe even squeeze it a bit shorter than that. But essentially, it's eating within a smaller window throughout the day, so you've got part of your day where you're not eating anything at all, okay? Not including the nighttime, but part of the actual daytime when you're going about your business. So essentially, like we've said, you can have 8 hours of fasting overnight, wake up at whenever it may be, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then don't eat anything up to about, say, midday, which is typically what I would do when I did intermittent fasting. Then get to midday, and all the food you would normally eat in the day, you pack into the 6 or 8 hours between midday up to 6 p.m. to maybe 7 or 8 p.m., whatever works for you. There's no exact set amount of time that you have to set your intermittent fasting window. It's whatever works for you. However, I would tend to suggest that people don't go beyond about 8 hours. Otherwise, the effects of intermittent fasting are going to be reduced. You can do intermittent fasting where you eat when you wake up for breakfast, maybe start at 6, go through to 2 p.m. and then stop eating. But from my experience personally and speaking to other people, that's a little bit difficult. People seem to want to eat towards the end of the day, and I know that's the same for myself, so that's why I leave that's why I leave the eating window for the last half of the day. Also, when I wake up, I do make sure typically that I eat a good breakfast, but I don't necessarily feel hungry right when I wake up, so it's a little bit easier to take that extended period through the morning where I don't eat anything. When you are fasting for that period through the day, make sure you drink a lot of water. If you're going to have coffee, I would make it black coffee so that you're not taking in any calories. You don't want to drink any calories either. If you have to have some kind of a fizzy drink or pop, make sure it's sugar-free and calorie-free. So in a nutshell, that's what intermittent fasting is. It's not about what you eat, it's about when you eat. And in fact, whether you're eating a calorie-restricted diet of any kind, whether it's keto or not, you can still do intermittent fasting and it still will have benefits for you. So when you've got in terms of why intermittent fasting works, when you've got that extended period of not eating throughout the day, you've got an extended period where your metabolism is still going. Your body has to get its energy stores and its energy reserves. It has to tap into your fat reserves. Now, it will also get some glycogen that's in your muscles. Unless you're on a keto diet, you typically won't have any glycogen. It will also potentially take a little bit from your muscles in the form of amino acids, but typically speaking, it's going to take it mostly from fat stores, which is what you want. Your insulin levels are low and stable. You haven't got blood glucose spiking up and down all over the place with insulin, and that's all beneficial to fat loss. Now, some people will say, you're getting the extra benefit because you're going fasting the extra amount through the day. Some people will say that intermittent fasting works because you're essentially skipping breakfast if you're having your eating put into the last half of the day. Guys, intermittent fasting is not about extra calorie restriction, okay? It's a really simplistic way of looking at it, and it ignores all the hormonal benefits that you get from the intermittent fasting itself. It's more complex than just saying you're missing out on a meal, because technically, proper intermittent fasting is when you take the entire day's food. If you have 2,000 calories in a day, you're not skipping a 500 calorie breakfast to have only 1,500 calories later in the day. No, you're taking that breakfast and you're jamming it in with the rest in the last 8-hour window. So you're still having 2,000 calories, it's just within that smaller window. Now, your body's going to be primed to take this food. If you've been fasting for an extra amount of time, your body will start to pump out a certain certain hormones that will, things like you might get, without getting too technical, you may get an improvement in your human growth hormone levels, perhaps your IGF-1 levels, all these things that basically make your body work better in terms of nutrient partitioning and getting rid of the fat and putting the nutrients into muscles, not putting the fat into muscles, but helping you with fat loss, helping you with maintaining muscle and doing all those beneficial things that you can get from fasting. So it's not necessarily that you're skipping calories and you're missing a meal and it's just another calorie restriction method. That's not what it is. It's taking advantage of your hormonal profiles and your greater propensity for weight loss when you're in a fasted state, and taking all the food out so you've got an extended fasted state to take advantage of those things, and putting all the food into a smaller eating window. By keeping all the food that's there, whatever your calorie amount is you're taking in from day to day, if it's 1,500 calories, if it's 2,000 calories, whatever it is, if you jam it all in that later eating window of 6 to 8 hours later in the day, your body is going to be primed with all those beneficial hormones going around. You might have a bit better insulin sensitivity, so it'll push more nutrients into the muscles. That extra food will replenish your stores of energy so that you can basically function better the next day. Okay? If you're doing intermittent fasting and you're cutting calories even more because you're skipping breakfast and not putting that breakfast calories somewhere later in the day, my experience is that you tend to get fairly lethargic, and I feel run down a lot easier. I can't exercise anywhere near as well, and that's just how it works for me. And I would suggest that you and me probably aren't going to be a whole lot different, so that may well be the way it works for you as well. So don't skip breakfast. That's not what it's about. If you're going to try intermittent fasting, simply take breakfast and put it in between lunch and dinner somewhere. It doesn't have to be a breakfast meal. Just take those calories that you've skipped and stick them somewhere in the afternoon. So guys, that's intermittent fasting in a nutshell. I've tried to keep it very, very basic and not get too technical and sciencey on it. So if you do have any questions or queries, please post in the comments section below. If you got some value from the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.